Tracy is a 1990 action crime film directed by Warren Beatty, starring, well, Warren Beatty and a smattering of other people in a lot of makeup.
And you, guilty of attempting to bribe an officer of the law.
She does some nifty undercover work.
That Dick Tracy drives you crazy, doesn't he?
I want Tracy dead!
Tracy, let's go!
Good luck.
You have just said goodbye to oxygen.
Aren't you gonna frisk me?
Stupid cop.
Tracy?
Warren Beatty is Dick Tracy.
Hey, here's looking at you, kid. Welcome back to the Cult of Films. I'm Johnny Bananas, and I'm joined by Cue Ball and Specs. How you doing, fellas?
Doing fantastic, John.
I'm here.
Can you believe that Danny Elfman did the music to this?
Yeah, I saw that and I was like thinking about, I wonder what else he was working on. I'll bet he did those Batman movies or something.
Was that a joke?
Something like that.
That was a joke.
No, I think it was 89.
Yeah.
The Michael Keaton Batman's was 89,
Right.
and I think like early 90s for the second one.
Mhm.
And the music scores sound very similar.
Very similar.
And it just, it had sort of a, I feel like Warren Beatty was trying to cash in on that kind of, hey, there's a comic book movie there. It's cool. I'm going to go for it too. Let's use primary colors for everything. And it's a movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
think about it. When we were all probably pretty young back then. I know at least I was. So I remember this movie coming out, and it was a big deal leading up to when it was coming out. People were really excited about it, and then people saw it, and then it's like my memory was erased or something. It's like everything left me because I was like, oh, I remember Dick Tracy was a movie, and so I was just like, is this even like a cult film? So I went on Twitter, I'm like, is this a cult film? And everyone's like, yeah, see? And so I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess we'll do Dick Tracy,
see?
but because I'm like, yeah, that had to have been cool, because I mean, obviously you remember the makeup, you remember the costumes, how everything just looks so incredible, but for the life of me, and I am serious, I couldn't remember a damn thing that happens in this movie. And then watching it again leading up to this, I'm like, oh yeah, because nothing really happens in this movie that's like super interesting. It just looks amazing. The trailer is probably all you need, but we'll get into that. But what did you guys think of your rewatch of Dick Tracy?
You know, I loved this movie when I was a kid, and I actually remembered a lot about this movie when I was a kid. I remember Flat Top 100%.
Maybe you want to look before you leap, huh? We got rights.
Take the bad men away. They scare me.
Up, out of here. Yeah, well, we got rights too, you know.
See around, Tracy, huh?
Come on.
Because of this movie, I've wanted at some point to own a Tommy gun. Just because I fell in love with it then. And I'm to this day, I would still love to own a Tommy gun at some point because they're just super rad. They're really expensive. I priced them out, but they're super cool looking.
I heard they're very inaccurate and somewhat dangerous to fire.
I'm sure they are, but you have a Tommy gun.
And
Right,
weigh,
yeah.
Shut up.
and they weigh
No.
about as much as a cinder block. They're like super heavy.
Perfect. Yeah.
Don't destroy my dreams, John.
You just need to brace yourself. That's it.
But I mean, I remember the two-way wrist radio, and that was like so cool back in the day. And it was a great movie for a kid.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe more appropriate, more inappropriate than we realized then.
Right.
Like, there's an outfit Madonna's wearing at one point. I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
nipples right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
they artfully dodged that. I saw that. I was like, wait, what?
There's
Ah,
a guy
mhm.
literally with vagina lips called right?
No, he looks
No.
like a
Oh.
grouper.
No,
Oh.
he's
got
got
group
lips.
Well, he's
The
just
guy's
sitting
name
there
is
like
Lips.
slurping like oysters. And
yeah.
it's the most
Oh, yeah.
disgusting, like
It was-
sexual.
It was the worst. It was just everything in the movie. The whole movie is one gigantic caricature.
Yeah.
That was it. Everything
Well,
in this
what I
movie was
didn't-
just caricature.
Because I was so young when I watched this, I didn't realize the freaking cast, man.
Yes.
Like, there's so many people in this
Mhm.
movie, And in rewatching it, it's not a good movie. So you got all these people that agreed to like do all this ridiculous makeup and whatever. I don't know if it's just because they were friends with Warren Beatty, or again, they were trying to cash in on the comic book fad or whatever. So you got like Al Pacino and
playing Al Pacino. I mean,
She got a great ass. And you got your head all the way up it.
right, but in all this makeup, like they're almost unrecognizable with the exception of James Caan, who I'm pretty sure just said, if you put that fucking makeup brush near me, I'll kick your teeth in.
yeah.
Because he's the only guy that just gets to be normal.
Right.
So the makeup is fun. I won't show my kids. My parents, I guess, didn't really realize that it was kind of bad because they allowed me to watch it and they didn't allow me to watch a lot of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was fun to revisit and find out that it's terrible.
Johnny, was this one that you liked as a kid?
I vaguely remembered this movie and didn't remember. I remember the cast was like exaggerations of certain features, and that's how they were, what their names were based off of it. And it was like, I knew it was a comic book. I think I saw most of it at one point, but I didn't have like you didn't remember much of it. I didn't remember much of it. It's a giant comic book turned into a movie, literally page for page and done like a comic book. And it was like,
yeah, the difference between this and like a Sin City though is in Sin City they're leaning more towards like the comic book, like fantasticalness of it, where this everyone's taking it seriously even though they're emoting through a mile of makeup, I think is the difference.
Yeah, it was more like, I feel like I watched this movie and I was more amused by the makeup. I was amused at how much fun the makeup artist must have had torturing these actors to sit in a chair for the hours it took to put all of these prosthetic face pieces on them.
Sure.
It was just like, and then the puns and the double entendres were just like, this is the worst. And even then, I can think of worse movies, literally, because of this show. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
And so it was bright, it was colorful, it was characters like, that's so dumb. It's like one of the funniest ones is when Dick Tracy chases the kid into the kind of like the slum neighborhood. He's reporting to his thug pimp. I don't know what's going on.
What?
This weird arrangement where he shows up in this little shack.
The kid had a pimp?
You were watching, Johnny.
He shows up to this little shack, and this guy, again, with a bunch of like absurd face makeup on, is there like, what, is that all you got? No, you don't get a piece of chicken. And then Dick Tracy shows up, and then the shack is swaying from side to side because they're just... Oh God!
It is, and there is cartoonish things. I said it was quite serious, but they do some of those fantastical things, like the whole thing where he's stuck in that room and he makes his partner jump, and so he does the whole like seesaw thing and propels him up. You know?
He's calculating it,
right? Yeah, all that. But yeah, like you said, can you imagine being that guy that played Little Face or the small face, and where it's literally just like that giant melon around his head? Like he could probably even like pick up his head, like. I don't know. I said it was uninteresting, but it's adequate. And I think that why it bombed, it didn't bomb. I mean, it made a ton of money. It had a $46 million budget. It made $162 million, but then it was just kind of like panned and forgotten about. But I think that people didn't like it so much is because it goes so dark in places. You see full on murder. Like they kill the Harvey Weinstein guy that's eating the oysters. Well, he's like begging for his life, and they're just like pouring cement, and they just dump him in the ocean. And that's just like murder in your Disney movie that you just took your kids to.
Yeah. No, it's okay. See, he'll just swim out. It's fine. The parents could explain it away because they didn't actually see them, put a bullet. And the bullets don't hit hardly any of the good people. None of the good guys get shot.
Well, it has that Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat like workaround where you remember like when you were little and playing Mortal Kombat, the Genesis one you actually got the blood, but like in the Super Nintendo one, when you punched someone, it was like sweat came out or whatever. And so like in the last scene where all the mobsters are trying to leave and the cops are mowing them down, you could see all the bullet holes in the cars, but like Flat Top gets out, gets shot like a ton of times. You don't see one bullet hole. You don't see 1 ounce of blood. There's none of that. But you do get to see Al Pacino smack Madonna about 40 times in the face. So,
well, that broad had it coming.
That's some dame.
Yeah, Al Pacino's character was just, it was so, what was that suit? It was so weird. He was a hunchback and he had like implants in his pants.
Well,
for his, like, it was weird. Why? What happened? I was just kind of like,
watching them do all this I was trying to imagine like trying to seriously act through that, because it's like you were saying, you know, with Sin City, where it's kind of played up to be fantastical, right? The ridiculousness of it. It's self-aware. Like this is it's campy, but they're trying to, you know, play it serious.
Yeah.
And so just imagining Al Pacino in all of that ridiculous makeup, but what the you know,
I like walnuts.
yeah.
You like walnuts, don't you, big boy?
I love them. A lot of people like walnuts. They're good for the liver.
And the monologue, like the scenes where there's just this, they're going down the secret escape thing, and all this this dialect, like he's saying all these little, and never mind the misquoting every famous person, president ever.
Oh, I love it.
He was just
yeah. Everything Al Pacino is great.
He's just saying these things, and he's like Lincoln. I'm like,
well, because he's so neurotic. Like the whole, like every time he's getting caught doing something wrong, he's like explaining it while it's happening. He's just like, all right, Tracy, well, you know, I'm not really doing anything. I mean, we're going to kill you right now, but it's your fault. Or, sorry, lady, I wasn't going to kidnap you, but now I guess I technically am, so don't move or I'll fucking kill you, you know. He just has so much fun with his character, and he's probably one of the only people that could, because there's a lot of people, I didn't even know that Flat Top was William Forsythe, and I love William Forsythe, and Flat Top is probably one of my favorite people in this.
He is the best. He's the best
great
character in this movie.
Yeah, but I didn't
Hands
know it was
down.
him. So it's like a lot of these people were acting and doing the thing, but completely disappeared in their roles. Al Pacino was just like perfectly cast to be a crazy over the top mob boss.
I mean, again, just Al Pacino, but making some ridiculous faces and sounds added to it.
Yeah, it was almost too many people, right? Because I think Coleman, you said you didn't even know Kathy Bates was in here. Like, there's so many, like even Dustin Hoffman's in here. Even he's like in it, but not in it that much, and so it's just chock full of stars, and there's just not enough room for everyone to really like shine.
Yeah, you can place a lot of these actors. You can watch this movie and you can figure out, I know that person, I know that person, I know all of them. You've seen them all. You've seen everybody who plays any.
If you can figure them out, though, some of the makeup is done.
Some of the makeup is really hard to like get past the makeup, but if you can figure it out, you can recognize their mannerisms just as a person, just not just as the character, but like every actor has their own way of doing things, so you can find those through their work. And you'll see them. You'll see these people. You'll know them from other movies, and there's a ton of them here. It's just there's so many of them. They're everywhere.
I just learned another one. Catherine O'Hare was in this as Texie Garcia. She's one of the female criminals that submits to Caprice. I didn't know this was Paul Sorvino. Like I said, I had no idea. There's just so many in. I don't know who Nutsack was. Like, there's so many in here that are put in these like crazy over the top performances. Dick Van Dyke, like he's not even wearing that much makeup. They just kind of younged him up, and I'm like, oh no, I know Dick Van Dyke's like 190 years old, so that can't be him. No, it was him. He's the corrupt DA.
Yeah.
I mean, Dick Van Dyke was recognizable.
Yeah.
I mean, the colors are fun, and the way it's done is fun. The sets are fun. It's all, I mean, it's very cartoony, intentionally cartoony, whatever, but it's just silly.
Yeah. I think my least favorite character, and this is probably going to make me sound bad or something, but I just don't like rewatching it. Madonna doesn't work for me in this movie at all. Dangerous Dame, and I know this was like prime Madonna years, and I actually don't mind Madonna's earlier work, like around this time. I just don't think she was a great actress ever. So I don't know. Every time she's on there, it's just she's so one note, and that might just be how it was written, and I understand that, but I liked Tess, Glenn Headley. She was better than her. So I don't know.
Headley did a good job. What caliber of acting Madonna did in this movie, I didn't care. It was fine. It was whatever. It was just like I don't know. I started watching this movie and I stopped caring about 5 minutes in. I was like, I know what I'm in for here. It's fine. This is fine. I've literally seen worse.
You think about so many shitty movies that got, and I'm not saying this is shitty, that got like sequels and reboots and all that. Why do you think that Dick Tracy was just like a one and done, and either studios didn't want to go on Earth and try to do it again, or why it never got a sequel?
It probably just didn't have enough of the fanfare that would, and they didn't have like the customer base that was going to carry it. I'll bet you they were looking at this. They were looking at Batman. They were looking at, like, this is before we get into like MCU kind of stuff. There wasn't like there had been stuff in the past, but the technology was starting to make it possible to do more with the characters that you would want to do with them. So they're looking around and seeing like, okay, is this going to hold up with the modern audience? Or is like Dick Tracy comic books? That's some way back stuff, and it's not like they kept current Dick Tracy comic books going through the decades. It was like a 40s 50s crime boss thing, and that was kind of its thing. And I can't recall anything evolving past that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they looked at that and then they looked at other comic book options and franchises and realized this doesn't have the legs to go the distance. And they looked at something like Batman, they looked at the DC universe, they looked at MCU, just a broad spectrum, before they had there was the big snapping up of all the intellectual properties, and they were looking for things that were actually going to make money and have some longevity to them. I'll bet you this one didn't have it, and that's why we didn't see a second. And
the cast, I mean, like Johnny's saying, this is pre-MCU. This is pre comic book movies being huge. Outside of a couple of hits like the Keaton Batmans, like the comic book movies weren't a big thing at this point. So you have this massive cast that, this isn't doing anything for their career. I mean, probably kind of the opposite compared to the other types of things that they're doing. Again, I feel like the only reason that this cast is what it is because it was Warren Beatty's name attached to it. And then, again, like Johnny's saying, you're taking a comic book from the 40s. Like, it wasn't even a current comic book.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's something that, I don't know, maybe Warren Beatty enjoyed those comics when he was a kid or something and wanted to make that movie, was able to get a bunch of his big-time actor friends in on it. But it's not something that anyone's like, oh yeah, I got to go see Dick Tracy. It's not like our generation going to see Spider-Man or any of the Avengers or any of this stuff coming out because we grew up on all that stuff.
Well, it was. That's how it was billed, and then people saw it and they're like, this isn't it. This isn't.
But even then, you're talking about for 50-year-olds,
right?
Well,
this was Warren Beatty's grown-ups, right? Like, he just cast all of his fellow old guy friends, but instead of like Adam Sandler just being like, hey, I'm shooting a movie, let's go to Jamaica, whoopity doo, like Warren Beatty's just like, hey, at least let's fucking put on some crazy makeup and be mobsters, and let's relive like some cool years. And so I give him credit for that. I think that's, at least he did something interesting with his his midlife crisis where,
for sure, I just don't think that the audience was there for that.
Right.
The way that the audience is there for the current comic book movies.
Well,
outside of all the stupid DC movies.
Yeah, and in the early 90s, I think up until, 96, this was the time where people were really into practical effects and really cool makeup, but Jurassic Park kind of came and changed the entire game. As soon as Jurassic Park dropped, like, everyone was obsessed with, doing the whole CG craze, and then it was like the CGI arms race, and so these type of tactical and practical effects kind of went to the wayside because people could do CGI badly for less money, but they thought that it was like groundbreaking and shit. Finally, the CG is now almost more realistic than reality, and but also like practical effects is come back too. So there's that nice mix now, but at the time it's just like, oh yeah, all the monster movies and all the the even Batman characters, you think of like Danny DeVito as the Penguin, he was just like under a mountain of makeup, and that was really cool. But then, like I said, Jurassic Park came out, and then Dragonheart, and all these films are just like, oh, we got to make the biggest, best computer animated monster or whatever. So I think that it was kind of a victim to the times. This is due for a reboot, and I think they could do it right, or at least I want to see a sequel. I don't want to see a reboot, because really it is what it is. I think it's good enough to stand on its own two legs. It was just like the story of Dick Tracy, taking down this one specific mob boss and all his goons. So, I mean, it's a comic book, so it lends to a serial type of format. So you could even do like a Netflix series of this or something. And I think there would be an audience for this nowadays.
So I guess the next question would have to be is like, what is the Dick Tracy franchise? Is that Marvel or is that DC? Or is it either?
I don't think it's either.
I don't think it was either. I think it was his own thing. I mean, this is in the heyday of comic books, so Marvel and DC were just kind of the ones that took off. There was all kinds of other little comics and stuff back in the day too.
So no, we may not see much out of this. If there's little hope for something like this happening, unless it gets snapped up by one of those bigger production houses to do something. And I think it would fit in like what MCU or what Marvel is doing with MCU characters in these like mini series that they're starting to put out on Disney. And that's where you could put Dick Tracy. You could modernize it and make it into something that could be relatable. And that's where I think it would fit. But I think this was a Warren Beatty pet project. Mm-hmm. He called in favors with all his friends. Yeah. Let's have some fun. Let's put on some ridiculous makeup. Let's get some famous people in here. Yay. And
yeah.
Oh, by the way, Madonna will be hanging out too.
Yeah, it's what it seems like.
Right.
But I suppose if they can make a dramatic series out of Archie comics, they can probably turn Dick Tracy into something for the modern day.
I want to see it as crazy though, like as batshit with the makeup. I want to see him actually push the envelope of, the practical effects of 2021, and like let's really see what we could do with this, because I don't know, like all that shit, like I was watching it and I'm like, this looks like it could be filmed today. Like everything holds up, like within the context of the film, the effects don't look dated at all. Like it looks like it could be a 2015 film or something, which is really cool. So it makes the film a little timeless, more so than even like a Star Wars or something, because the original Star Wars kind of looks dated at this point, where this did not have that, like the mascara wasn't like running off of this one. It was the rights of the comic book is owned by IDW Comics, so I'm glad, because I mean I didn't want it to be Marvel or DC, because the last thing we need is like, oh, Dick Tracy showing up in Avengers Endist game,
Yeah, I feel like if they remade it though, I don't feel like it would be all bright and whatever. Even if we wanted that, I feel like they would try to make it dark.
I hope so.
They could make it dark. It could work that way.
It's a fine line, because you don't want Sin City either. It's its own thing. It's that like middle ground where it's.
No. They could bring it. They could go down the same path as something like Batman Returns or like the Dark Knight Rises or whatever. That road you could go down. The next movie down the line, you could even go that way. Like right. They kept it rooted enough in reality. You could be like, that's Chicago, that's Manhattan. I get it. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to this movie, the cityscape was I have no idea what city that was. It looked like it was a mashup of New York, Chicago, Boston, like Philly. I don't know. They just like put all these different cityscapes and made it one gigantic landscape.
Well, it didn't really need a real city.
Right.
I mean, it's such a, everything about it's so fantastical. The city is just a comic book extension of the universe that they're in.
You need diners, warehouses, and like shipyards, and you got your setting, and that's perfect.
Right.
I want to see the kid as assume the mantle as Dick Tracy.
The kid from Hook.
It is the kid. So he even does that Dustin Hoffman train. The kid wasn't in Ishtar.
Catan.
He wasn't in Catan.
Catan.
Charlie Korsmo. Maybe not cast him as Dick Tracy Jr. Well, he could be the recasted Kathy Bates as the stenographer in the new one. Or he could be
that's the last time his name isn't.
They bring him up and they crack open the thing and he's like, my lips are just shaped in the right way to where I have this crack and I was able to breathe, for 30 years. And I ate so many oysters that night. And they're like, oh, fuck, it's Harvey Weinstein. Put him back in the ground.
I don't know where you're getting. He just looks like a grouper. Very intentionally like a group.
Yeah, God, it was the worst.
She's even like, that's my favorite Madonna scene. It's just like, can I go? Because watching you eat is fucking disgusting.
How about the surprise ending?
Oh, yeah.
No. Yeah.
What a tweet.
You weren't just so excited that No Face was Madonna after she'd been just passed around by mobsters?
See, I forgot.
Treated like a piece of meat?
I forgot it so much that I thought it was going to be Tess. And I'm like, oh, it's the girlfriend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then when it was Madonna, I'm like, oh, shit, I don't like this as much.
Nah, see, I was about halfway into it, and then No Face shows up, and I start remembering, like, little bits started coming back. So, wait a minute. It's Madonna plays No Face, doesn't she? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking to see like how are they walking the same way? Like what's the kind of their body movement? Yeah. And then at the end, it's like I've seen this movie.
But they do the whole Empire Strikes Back thing where they take her mask off at the end, right? And instead of now just talking like Anakin Skywalker, she's still doing the thing. And I'm like, wait, what's?
So she goes into her normal voice.
Yeah.
I couldn't pull the trigger.
What? How is she doing that voice without the mask?
Only the mask makes the voice?
That's what I assumed. I don't know. She was in character.
I mean, I thought it was cool that you saw maybe she was actually making the voice the whole time.
I think she was. And I was like, kind of, at that point, I was like, man, like, she's the one person that can actually sing the parts for the singer's role in the movie. And then she goes and trashes her voice for, like, these handful of lines. Like, okay.
Kind of. She doesn't have the right voice for that style of singing.
That's what it might have been. Yeah.
I don't necessarily have an issue with her acting in the movie. I didn't think it was terrible.
Sure.
She just doesn't have that sassy attitude, and there's a very bubbly sound in the lounge singers of the times, like voices, and all the supporting singers around her have that bubbly, singing, and usually the main singer is supposed to be really sultry, and she just doesn't have that.
Yeah.
I don't think she has the range or the ability to actually make those types of songs happen.
Her sounds just sounded like Madonna songs.
Yeah.
Did I say her sounds sound like her songs sounded like her songs sounded like Madonna songs, and yeah, it just took me out of it. Where I'm like, oh, I'm just watching a Madonna video that's directed by David Fincher, but it wasn't. Because it was directed by Warren Beatty. I don't know. I was hoping for something to explain the voice a little bit. Like she took off the mask and she had one of like oyster shells on her face or something. I'm glad he's gone, but at least he knows me all along. Yeah.
In post you need to just put like a pool for like how many times does Jon in this episode. What is? Oh,
Maybe you should have a ticker in there. Ding, ding, ding. 5, 6,
this is the worst drinking game ever.
7.
Oh my god!
All right, we're come to the end of the night where do we recommend watching Dick Tracy in 2021? Johnny?
No.
I'm sorry, Specs.
If you're interested in fantastical makeup and seeing like bright, vivid colors in real life, and it's a comic book setting, and yay, look, they took the comic book and put it in that, the film was rolling, and people wore the shoulder pads. Yeah, that's otherwise, don't watch this movie.
All right.
Glowing review.
Yeah.
If you like the stuff with the stuff and the people wearing the things, okay.
And I've still seen worse.
Cabin Boy.
There's Cabin Boy's even better than some of the other things we've seen.
Cue Ball.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Whatever. I don't care.
Like the person just made fun of Johnny. Yeah.
Yeah.
the just the condensed. This is apathy for you.
100%.
Yeah.
If you want to go see like a bunch of really well-known, revered actors in a shit ton of makeup be ridiculous, like go watch this.
Yeah.
But there's beyond that, there's no real draw to it. Again, it's fun for, I mean, maybe if you're our age and you watched it as a kid, like go watch it for nostalgia's sake. But I think you may be disappointed.
That's fair.
Unlike Hackers, where you definitely won't be disappointed. You will love it.
I love the shoehorning in every chance you get. Just pushing that narrative.
Right. Just need to remind you guys how good it is.
As Johnny Bananas here, I'm here to tell you. I'm here to tell you that this was nominated for 7 Academy Awards. Also, it won 3, and it only deserved to win 2.
For visual,
it won Best Original Song, Best Makeup, and Best Art Direction. So 2 of them, absolutely. The original song, that's debatable, but the makeup and art direction, hell yeah, I'm glad.
Is it for a Madonna song?
I think so. I don't know. It doesn't say what song.
Gross.
I actually, if you were to ask me before I rewatched it for this episode, I would say no, because it was so forgettable. Watching it with jaded old eyes and getting all the more adult themes to it, absolutely. I actually like this a lot more this time. I'm not saying it's a bop, but I mean it's definitely a really cool movie. It's a feat of technical prowess, all the art direction, all that, absolutely just for that. But the story isn't too bad. The story's kind of pedestrian. It's a stereotypical, cop detective, I'm taking down the mob thing. You've seen it a million times before, but you haven't seen it with. So that's it from us. Thanks for tuning in. Please thumbs up the video and subscribe to the channel. Tell everyone that we're talking about films and cult films and all films. You can follow this on the podcasting sites as well. You can follow us. You can find this on Spotify. You can find this on Stitcher, all of your favorite podcasting sites. Leave us comments there, as well as leaving us comments on this video. Where can everyone find you, Coleman?
You can find me at Coleman Yeti on Twitter doing nothing, or on Instagram posting cool pictures of pretty places that I go on the channel Cascade Backcountry on the YouTubes, which you should also go check out.
All right. And Mr. Johnny Hamilton? Johnny Mully?
Johnny,
Mulligan?
whatever. John Mulligans?
Hamiltons? What are you now?
I'm just, you can find me here. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Commander_Hamilton. That's CMDR_Hamilton. Because, don't worry about it.
Because Johnny doesn't have an alibi, apparently.
I got nothing.
My favorite.
Johnny gets to be cast as Mumbles in the new Dick Tracy.
Please, just you know what? There's nothing to see here. Like it's fine. It's fine. You're not missing anything. It's all good.
Perfect.
He's downplaying it. Johnny's very famous. Go check him out.
He's an oyster shucker. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time.